Good morning and welcome to St. Sarkis Church. Happy Easter. Christos Haryavi Merelot. We continue celebrating Easter for the next 40 days. It was not only last Sunday. I'm happy to see you. I think few people are missing from last Sunday, but that's okay. It was expected. I hope for those who are here, we are ready to celebrate today, and today is called New Sunday, Norgiragi. So I would like to start my homily with the following question and maybe story, and then go into the message of the day. Netflix. Who doesn't have Netflix? We all have Netflix, right? And the question that we have about Netflix is, do you do movies or series on Netflix? Now it seems like Netflix series is a lot more popular than the movies. 10, 15 years ago, everyone would say no movies, but now Netflix series, people binge watch. They sit down and they watch 3, 4, sometimes 6 episodes back to back, and then they realize that their life hasn't changed. I'm not a series person. I like movies, and I watch movies as if I'm watching series. In other words, I start watching a movie on Monday evening. After watching 10 minutes, I realize that I need to go to bed, and then hopefully by the end of 2 weeks, I get to finish that movie, and at that point, I don't remember what was the movie about. That's how things are going with me right now, but it wasn't always like that. It wasn't always like that. When I was younger, I used to enjoy movies, and there was this one movie that particularly I liked very much when it first came out in the late 90s. It was a movie called The Sixth Sense by Bruce Willis. It is a really good movie. For those who have watched it, they know exactly what I'm talking about, and those who haven't watched it, I am not going to entirely spoil the movie for you. But what I like about that movie is that you start the movie, it seems like a regular beginning to the movie, and then you watch, and then you go all the way to the last few minutes, the last scene, and then they bring you back to the beginning of the movie. And then you kind of rewatch the first scene of the movie again, and at that point you realize what has happened, and the whole thing makes sense to you. And I like those kinds of movies where things are complex. You have to go back and forth to get to what is happening. And today we have something similar happening in our church. Last week we were reading, starting from Holy Thursday all the way to Easter Sunday, we were reading about the last events of Jesus, his Last Supper, the evening of his Passion, Friday his crucifixion and his burial, and then Sunday his resurrection. So if we were looking at the events as a book, this was the final chapter of the book. And today, the writer of the 4th Gospel, St. John, he gives us the first chapter of his Gospel. And our church invites us to go back and read the first chapter of the Gospel of John, which, just like that movie of The Sixth Sense, it cuts everything into a very clear context, and it helps us understand what happened last Sunday, what was Good Friday all about, and what is the message of resurrection. So I think Tony this morning proclaimed the gospel in English and Deacon Razmig in Armenian, but maybe some of you were not here when that was read. So I would like us to, if you have a copy of your printed bulletin, to take that bulletin and let's read the gospel reading together. The gospel of Jesus Christ according to John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, but the darkness has not understood it. There came a man who was sent from God. His name was John. He came as a witness to testify concerning that light, so that through him all men might believe. He himself was not the light. He came only as a witness to the light. The true light that gives light to every man was coming into the world. He was in the world, and though the world was made through him, the world did not recognize him. He came to that which was his own, but his own did not receive him. Yet to all who received him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God, children born not of natural descent, nor of human decision or husband's will, but born of God. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. John testifies concerning him. He cries out, saying, "This was he of whom I said, 'He who comes after me has surpassed me, because he was before me.' From the fullness of his grace, we have all received one blessing after another. For the law was given through Moses, grace and truth came through Jesus Christ." Amen. This is the opening chapter of the Gospel of John. And this is a very unusual opening if you compare this to the other Gospels. Matthew and Luke, they speak about the incarnation of Jesus. But John gives us a totally different perspective. A lot of people would say that probably this was a song that early Christians used to sing in their worship. But there's another way of thinking, and that other way of thinking says that this is the theology that John perceives. This is how John perceives the whole incarnation. We can spend a lot of time thinking about every verse in what we read, and that's not what we are going to do today. We are going to focus on two things. The first thing that I'd like us to focus on is the dichotomy that we see as we read. And the dichotomy that John puts in this very short part is between light and darkness. He looks at God as the source of light. He is light himself, and the light that comes to give light to the entire humanity. But we have a choice: to remain in the darkness or to receive light. The themes will continue next week. Next week we will read about Nicodemus, and there we will see that Nicodemus was somewhere in that dark place, and he was making an attempt to come to the light. But that's for next week. This dichotomy is found in everyone's life. It was found in the life of the disciples as it is found in our lives today. But the second point, which to me at least it's far more important, the second point is that in here, as John looks at the mission of Jesus Christ, his incarnation through his crucifixion, he sees that God is giving us a very special grace. And that grace is to become children of God. Now, our faith, my brothers and sisters, is not only an intellectual exercise. We're not only asked to understand certain things so that we can practice them, but our faith is about our identity. And this part here touches that aspect of our lives, because we have an invitation to become children of God. How do we become children of God? God is offering to us his grace freely. And if we open ourselves to receive God's grace, then we become children of God. That becomes part of our identity. John shows this as he practices and embracing the grace that Jesus gives. 2 weeks ago, last Friday rather, when we had the retreat, we spoke about this. We said that in his gospel, John refers to himself as the beloved disciple or as the beloved. And we said that, is this his sense of narcissism that he is above the other disciples? But we were also able to understand that John in reality is receiving that grace, and it's making that grace part of his identity. And we are asked to do the same thing, to become the beloved. Each and every one of us can be the beloved. Because when we receive that grace of God and we become a child of God, then the entire passion, crucifixion, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, they become the center of our lives. A center that gives us direction, meaning, and purpose. So the message here today is a message of renewal. And renewal not like I'm feeling kind of sad and I need to do certain things in my life so that I feel renewed, but it's a renewal of identity. Let us embrace this identity, because once we have it, the small things in life will no longer matter. Սիրելի հավատացյալներ, այսօր մեր եկեղեցի մեզի հրավիր է նորոգության մասին մտածելու եւ մեզի Հովհաննես Արաքյալի այն խոսքերը գուտա թե Աստված իր շնորհքը մեզի գուտա ծրիորեն Հիսուս Քրիստոսի ցերկերով։ Եկեղեցու հայրերը մեկը շատ գեղեցիկ ձևով գսե հետևյալը. Աստված մարտացավ, որբեսի մարդը աստվածանա։ Այս մեծ խորհուրդը մեզի դրված է, որում մասին մենք կարժե որ մտածենք, հասկանանք եւ անիգա դարձնենք մեր կյանքի ինքնությունը եւ էությունը։ Այսօր մեր եկեղեցին նաեւ գտոնե ավետումն Սուրբ Աստվածածնի դոնը։ Այս դոնը ամեն տարի ապրիլ 7-ին գտոնենք, չնայած թե քանի շաբթի գլա, գիրագի կամ երկու շաբթի կամ ոյ մեկ օր շաբթվա մեջ, որովհետեւ այսօրվան 9 ամիսի հետ կհասնենք ուր Ունուվարի 6 Քրիստոսի ծնունդը։ Այսօր ավետումն Սուրբ Աստվածածնի է։ Աստվածին, որ իր ամուր հավատքով հրեշտակին պատկամը ընդունեց եւ ասա, որ թող Աստուծո ուզածը ըլա իմ կյանքիս մեջ։ Այսօր մենք ալ նույն բանը Աստուծո դառնալով գսենք, Աստվածին քու կամքը թող ըլա, ինչ որ դու ինձ համար գնախնամես, ես քու ծառատեմ, ես քու աղախինեմ, պատրաստ եմ անիգա անելու քու օգնությամբ։ Այսօր անոնք, որոնք իրենց ընտանիքի մեջ ավետիս ունին, գրնակ ծեր ընտանիքի անդամներուն անունին դոնալ դոնել, կարծեմ ես ալ պետք է անեմ անիգա։ Թող Աստված օրհնեցես բոլորդ իր շնորհքով հավիտյանս, ամեն։